In business, there's no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. When you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on. Because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else: your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS, official shipping sponsor of the NHL.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, let's get it going. Back here on Money Moves, Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Still to come this hour, we're going to dive into the NHL slate, the NBA, Major League Baseball. JVT has his passport, what's this called? Like information fill-out application. Sorry, I don't know. I couldn't think of the word. It's my first day back. I'm a little rusty.
Japanese for the last 2 weeks?
Forgetting words. I have, actually. I'm really good at saying I don't speak Japanese in Japanese. Nihongo ga wakarimasen.
There you go. That was good.
Well,
our audience doesn't know that you can, you have a very actually deep Japanese background. I'm not being sarcastic.
Yeah. No, that's right. My grandparents back in the day were English teachers in Japan for years, and my mom was actually born in Okinawa. So it was cool to get to go over there, experience the culture a little bit. I am still paying for it in terms of my sleep. The time change has not treated me well. I know you're used.
It's not that bad. You woke up at 3:30 this morning.
Listen.
It's like a normal day.
I get you're used to that, and you're doing your little workout thing. You got 2 workouts in before breakfast, your whole bit. I'm not like that, though, okay? So 3:30, I did everything in my power to stay in bed for an extra 2 hours, and I could not do it.
What was today?
Push day.
There you go.
Nailed it.
Go. Come on now.
Let's go. Didn't miss a beat.
That's right.
Also, hoping not to miss a beat, Dan Hurley and Dusty May and their squads tonight in the national championship. We got Michigan and UConn going head-to-head. Final game of the season. Who's going to get it done? Michigan from a 7.5 to 6.5 point favorite. We have seen some money come in on the over tonight as well, from 144.5 to this thing keeps on going up depending on where you look. 146.5 now, the highest number I'm seeing over at DraftKings. And we told you earlier about the injury updates. It looks like for both Michigan and UConn, their injury questionables should be available today. Neither Yaxel Lendenborg nor Solo Ball were listed on the NCAA's Final Four availability report and are expected to go.
The total going up, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a bad sign for UConn, but as we've talked about, I don't think that's what UConn wants, right? Higher scoring game, more possessions up and down. So maybe a slight correlation total-wise to the side. UConn in the under, Michigan in the over,
sure.
As we saw over the weekend. So maybe that'll work in that direction as well. But I'll be on Michigan tonight to sweat this out. Now, last few rounds, got knocked out essentially of the Circuit College Hoops Challenge. That was very sad. Over the last few days. Sounds like there's a protest brewing, by the way.
Yeah, I was like, you're not the only one going through it about the contest. I mean, tell this to the people at home.
We don't need to bring anything up. But Chris Pissarro is, making his thoughts known about the format of the contest, and he and Matt Humans are dueling, battling with one another. Not on social media, but I think in personal life. So maybe friendships are going to be ruined over this. I don't know.
I doubt that. For inquiring minds, it's deadline related.
Yes, yeah, it's deadline related. It doesn't matter because, again, Paul Stone doing his thing and at the top. And as somebody pointed out, because Paul Stone right now, 27.5 points, 26-18, Massaro behind him, but did not get his pick in, so Paul Stone will win this thing. Chris, you're going to be able to participate. Last year, Paul got the cabana, and guess what? He invited us all out, so,
It's a win-win.
Yeah. Just like, if I was going to win it, I'd invite everybody. So I think I don't want to put any words in Paul Stone's mouth.
You're doing a cabana regardless, right? So make sure you send the invites out.
Yeah, we got to plan that. Sorry. We're focused on more important things. Got to reach the goal first before you celebrate, Stormy. Okay?
All right. One thing at a time. Can't count the chickens, as they say. Don't mess it up, JVT.
Right.
Don't mess it up.
All this to say that I like Michigan, and I can understand the game getting bet over the total.
You know who else likes Michigan? Dusty May. He really likes his team.
Right.
He, in a number of interviews, you've heard him say, we didn't come here to lose, right? Like, we came here to win a national championship. Again, 6.5 point favorites in this spot. And a lot of the conversation around Michigan has been not only their dominance, JVT, but the way that this roster has come together. And a lot of players that have come from other places and maybe not been a fit, been a bench player, been somebody who wasn't making a significant impact to becoming stars with this Michigan team, and may address that in his media availability?
Look, I know this is going to set off a Twitter firestorm, but I think we all are better in certain situations than others. There's an environment that's right for me. There's an environment that's right for you. And sometimes you don't choose the right environment from the beginning. Or sometimes as people, we change and we need something different for a number of reasons. So the way we choose to look at it, we're going to bring in really, really good guys that are high achievers that want to do it the way we want to do it. And when the Oklahoma City Thunder won the championship last year, and I'm friends with Coach Dagnall and a lot of people in that organization, I wasn't judging them because Shea Alexander was drafted by the Clippers or because they signed Isaiah Hartenstein as a free agent. I thought, wow, those guys play beautiful basketball. That is a great team. That's a real model for young players to watch. A group that obviously cared about each other, that played the game the right way, that represented their organization, their city, their families, their last name. And so whatever the rules are, we're gonna go at it. But our job is to put a competitive roster team on the floor that represents Michigan the way we think they deserve to be represented.
And hey, credit to him. It's worked so far, JVT.
It has. He's a good coach, man. And the way they play, we've used this term a lot, but they're very analytically sound. They play at a quick pace. They take threes. They get to the rim, get to the free throw line. They're very solid. And they actually did a pretty good job of kind of cutting down on their biggest weakness, which has been their turnovers. That's been a big deal. We've talked about it a lot, but it really hasn't come to fruition for the most part. Against Arizona, it is worth pointing out that Elliot Cadeau did have, I think, 6 turnovers in the game, but he also had 10 assists, so kind of balanced it out pretty nicely with the assist-to-turnover ratio. So you can have some of the turnovers bite you, but they did a good part in cutting those down. And adding to the possessions helps as well. If you're going to give away possessions, at least maximize how many you get in the game, and sure enough, that has helped them out in this tournament as well.
Number 1 in the country in defensive efficiency, 5th in offensive efficiency, also the better rebounding team. Their raw size inside is going to be a problem you would anticipate for UConn today. If you are betting the title game, by the way, in addition to obviously all of the content that you're consuming wherever you're watching or listening today, you can also get everything that's on the website. Steve Makinen's got a breakdown of all of the top trends heading into the national championship. Greg Peterson, Adam Burke, their best bets articles available right now. vsin.com/subscribe. You get unlimited access to everything every day up at the website. Just $9.99 right now. Save 50% with an annual subscription. Again, that's vsin.com/subscribe. We will give out best bets at the very end of the show today, as usual. We'll talk more national championship a little bit later on. But with the NBA card today and this season winding down a little bit, just 5 games coming up today.
It's the last week of the regular season.
Less than a week to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ends on Sunday.
Anything you like tonight?
All right, so let's talk about a couple of these games here. We'll start with Detroit and Orlando. Seems too easy, right? Detroit on the road against the Orlando Magic. Magic have kind of been a nightmare here. We've talked about this a lot in the times you've been gone, and a brutal situation for Orlando. Second leg of back-to-back, third game in 4 nights for the Magic, and the Pistons have played very well without their guy, Cade Cunningham. The injury report for both teams worth noting. We'll keep an eye on. Tobias Harris is questionable. Duncan Robinson questionable. Isaiah Stewart's still out. But, Lino, I want to see what's going to happen with the 2 questionables, but these scheduling spots have been pretty bad for Orlando, and they have not handled them well when you're talking about the negative aspect of this. Last week, Stormy, while you were still gone, there were 2 interesting spots for the Orlando Magic on their schedule. First, they caught the Phoenix Suns in a really good spot. It was the second leg of a back-to-back, third game of 4 nights for Phoenix. Orlando had multiple days of rest. They took care of business there. Then the inverse of that happened the next day where they took on Atlanta. They got smoked, 130-101. They beat both Dallas and New Orleans on the road and come back home here for 2 more games before the regular season ends. Just don't know if I really trust them at this point. Detroit, now this is where you get to the weird part about where the season's at. Detroit has the number 1 seed locked up right now. They are in. So do they care? What will the rotations look like? That's going to be something worth looking at. Meanwhile, Orlando has everything in the world to play for. They are just a game back of the 6th seed, despite being 9 right now in the Eastern Conference. So scheduling spot, says Detroit. situation, I guess, would tell you Orlando just because the Pistons have nothing to play for. But this Detroit team's been playing pretty hard down the stretch, even with nothing there. And maybe the allure of getting 60 wins is something potentially worth it to the Detroit Pistons in a season like this. So all that being said, want to see what's going to go on with the questionables, but think Detroit's in a pretty good spot tonight against a really bad Orlando team.
That is not the only 1.5 point spread coming up tonight.
Yep.
Same number for Knicks and Hawks. Atlanta favored by 1.5. Total there, 226.5. How about this Hawks team? Just reeling off wins lately.
Yep, they've been fantastic. And this is I think I understand Raheem Palmer's with us earlier, talked about betting this under. I can understand it. Maybe a faux-type playoff atmosphere here for both teams. The New York Knicks trying to keep their way. I mean, it actually really depends on what they want to do, I guess. But they can still fall to the 4 seed if that's the case. That would mean that you are you're avoiding the Celtics in the second round should you win a playoff series, and also taking on a potential matchup against a team like this Hawks group, which could be a pretty rough go for the Knicks. So how they want to handle this is going to be pretty interesting. Atlanta as well, trying to stave off Philadelphia and really solidify their spot inside of the top 6. So there's plenty of motivation for both sides here. To me, it would be Atlanta or nothing. Both teams come in on 2 days of rest. Hawks injury report is pretty clean here. Jock Landale is the only one that's listed as out. Same thing with the Knicks. Pretty even strength type playoff matchup where you might get this thing to go under the total between these two. Some overnights were as high as 230.5, and we're down to 227.5. So can understand why at the very least you're sitting here at that total. Would lean under as well, but it's obviously ship has sailed. This has moved so much between these two.
You mentioned Raheem Palmer doing a great job over there at The Ringer. We had him on earlier in hour 1 of the program. If you want to hear that full segment, you can always download Money Moves wherever you get your podcast each and every day. Everything is uploaded each and every hour. We've got our own feed. We're also in the VSiN Best Bets feed if you want to check out there. One thing we didn't get to with Raheem, though, that I'm curious your opinion on. How about Steph Curry's performance last night?
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
I mean, they're not going to do anything at all from the standpoint of the postseason in the Western Conference. But with Curry back and his impact on the floor, his gravity as a player, if you're Portland and Los Angeles, the Clippers, you are fighting tooth and nail now. Portland has a massive, massive game against Denver today because you don't want to be in that bottom play-in. Do you want to be in a one-off against Golden State with Steph Curry on the floor? Not at all. Same thing as they're actually playing the highlights that we're talking right now. The same thing with the Los Angeles Clippers. And look, if you're at the top, if you're, let's say, San Antonio or OKC, which is who they would face, I don't know. I don't think you would not be in any threat to lose that series. But do you want to have to just deal with what Steph Curry and Draymond Green can bring to the table over what could be a feisty series? I don't really know. But I think at the end of the day, it's just one of those more impactful in the play-in. He's back. He's healthy. And could a team like Portland or Los Angeles be eliminated because of his return?
We've gotten into a lot of the big picture stuff as it pertains to the NBA. Still to come this hour, we will do the same in the National Hockey League as well. But coming up next, diving into a busy day in Major League Baseball. JVT, you have been diving deep into a number of these games. Excited to get your breakdown when we return here on Money Moves. Stick around.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
Let's do it. Diving into a 13-game slate in Major League Baseball. Today, back here on Money Moves, Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And as I mentioned to you earlier, obviously with me being out of town for the last couple of weeks, I am playing catch-up on a few things. Obviously kept tabs on a lot while I was gone still. But Major League Baseball, I probably dropped the ball on a little bit here. So,
even though you're in a fantasy league? A highly competitive fantasy league?
You have no idea the struggle that it was for me to figure out and remember to set
You know what I did?
What?
You know what I did? I'm going to show you this right now, okay? Look at the world clock that I added to my phone while you were gone.
Wow.
Because I wanted to keep track of not bothering you at too many different times, so I knew what time it was over there in Tokyo. What I'm saying is, it's not that hard.
Oh, please. Yet you still found a way to text me at 3 o'clock in the morning, my time, on numerous occasions.
But yes, I have been keeping track. Baseball it's been off to a good start. It's been a lot of fun. And I think we should start with what I believe to be one of the bigger stories so far in Major League Baseball, which is out in Southern California. Jose Soriano gets a start tonight for the Anaheim Angels against the Atlanta Braves. In all seriousness, Soriano has been absolutely incredible through 2 starts, had a great start to open the season against the Houston Astros, and you think, all right, maybe there's something to it, maybe there's not. Goes 6 innings, faces 24 batters, gives up just 2 hits, strikes out 7, has some wonky command issues, but you got to go on the road. You got to take on the Cubs, and it's really windy. Let's see what happens. Wind's blowing in. 6 innings, gives them shutout ball, strikes out 4, walks another 2, so the command again, you probably are a little shaky. Soriano probably has some regression coming. Having said that, the 285 expected ERA, the 286 FIP, my man is wheeling and dealing, and now he gets to take on the Atlanta Braves at home. $1.75, the current price right now, pretty much where we opened at most spots. Circa here opened up in that range of like $1.58, depending on where you look. So, can you ask the question, first 5, would Soriano be alive? Maybe you look under. Was they oppose Chris Sale? Is Mike Trout going to play today is the other question. Yesterday, in a Easter miracle, the Angels go on, hold on in extra innings, and beat the Seattle Mariners. But the question is whether or not Trout, who took a fastball off the hand, x-rays were negative, will he be in the lineup today? Something you want to look for. But if he is not, you've got Zach Neto, who has been performing well at the top of the lineup. Joe Adell hasn't really been there. Soler hasn't hit well. Sean Noel is just hitting weak contact, getting stuff done. I'm assuming that this Angels lineup is going to be a little weak here today. So I think you can make the case for an under tonight out there in Anaheim, potentially. Total is 7.5. It's overshaded like -118, depending on where you look. But if Sale's going to come in here and get to have his way with a lineup that is kind of soft hitting at this point without Mike Trout, and Soriano is going to continue to deal the way that he is, maybe it gets you under the total. Having said that, it is worth pointing out, last year, the splits for Soriano, he was very strong on the road. He was okay at home, not great. The first 2 starts for Soriano were on the road. That's the whole theme here. If you keep up, you pay attention. Come on now. So I think this is going to be alive to stay under, but Soriano, the Angels, and Trout status are going to be a very big story later tonight.
I thought you were going to say teams.
No.
And I didn't want to.
I was setting it all up here, going down a certain path here.
By the way, if you do like the under, there are some 8s out there as well,
Okay.
including at DraftKings right now, -118 on that under there. Sticking with the theme, though, of Los Angeles, the Dodgers coming up tonight, taking on the Blue Jays. This is the lone national game of the day. LA back in Toronto for the first time since the World Series. This is going to be the only series these two play all regular season. Toronto a +119. Dog here, -143 on the Dodgers side of things, total sitting 9. Any early thoughts?
I mean, I think this is just more about the theater, isn't it? I mean, these two teams facing each other again since the World Series, the narrative behind it. Robleski's going to get the start for the Dodgers, and the time we saw him wasn't particularly impressive. So you do wonder if that's something of a sign of things to come, or if this is going to be a guy that's going to allow opponents to stay into this. Pitched 4 innings against Cleveland to start the season. Did not go well. Gave up 4 hits. Walked the guy as well. Only struck out 2. Gave up 3 earned runs. So wasn't really commanding a ton of swing and miss stuff. Is that going to be bad here? And I wonder, too, this is not something I know. I'm just curious to throw out. You know, in basketball at the beginning of the season, Wes Reynolds talks about this all the time, so the handicappers on the network, the early postseason revenge angle. Mm-hmm. You take on a team that eliminated you for the postseason a year ago, you get revenge against them. I'm assuming Toronto, the fans, will all be pretty ravenous to maybe get a little bit of vengeance after what happened in the World Series and getting their first crack at it. And you get a mortal pitcher on the other side like Robleski, who is going to give you an opportunity to do so. So I do think that there's a shot that the Blue Jays are going to be pretty live. We saw this open -143. The magnitude of what this lineup can be for the Dodgers is obviously worth it. Now, on the other side, you get Scherzer. Scherzer, as we have seen so far in just the one start, 6 pretty strong innings. You can make the argument, given the quality of contact he was giving up, that maybe he was due for a little bit more against Colorado, but still held up with just 1 solo shot and struck out 4. Dodgers will have something to say about that. Total's 9, and I think that's probably something that you could push to see go over the total potentially between these two.
Talking through today's 13-game Major League Baseball card, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you here on Money Moves. Where else should we be looking tonight, in your opinion?
All right, so there's a couple of games here. I'm just going to throw this out. So, I will tie in some fantasy stuff into this just because we're streaming some starts
It'll
and whatnot.
help me.
It will, but we've also seen the market move in this direction. But I've come around to Miami today against Cincinnati. Jansen Junk's going to get the start for the Marlins today. We saw some spots open -122. We're upwards of -136. If you look at Junk, again, we're talking about really small sample size of numbers, so you don't want to take a ton from what we have seen from these guys so far. Having said that, the early going for Junk, I think you do like in the one start. It was 4 1/3, didn't give up a ton of hard contact, actually got somewhat unlucky with the balls in play, but still struck out 5, limited to just 2 earned runs. That was against the Chicago White Sox. 4.15 ERA, but a 2.63 expected, 1.58 FIP. Not any barrels allowed at all in that start either. And then you get the Reds. You talk about a soft-hitting lineup. The Reds, they were pretty weak last year. The start of the season has been that same thing for Cincinnati as well. You're out there in Miami, too. I think Junk's going to give them a pretty good opportunity to potentially win this game. And on the other side, you get Brandon Williamson. Williamson last year, he, over the course of a very small, the last time we saw him, I should say, was 2024, a very small sample size. So we don't know what exactly we're going to get. And this year, the 4 2/3 weren't really great that we saw at his first start. I think all of these things together could mean that Miami, the market's getting this right, I believe. Driving this up to that $1.36 price. I still think if you're looking around, you're still looking at some $1.30, some prices under $1.30 here. Circa's -127, some spots are at -125. I still think they're fair prices for Miami today against Cincinnati.
One game that interested me, I'm curious your opinion on, is this Brewers-Red Sox games, at least in terms of early returns, teams that are trending in different directions. You got the Brew Crew that seems to be trending up, 7-2. All of their wins coming on the run line as well, piling up runs. Meanwhile, the Red Sox, we talked about a little bit earlier, really struggling, 2-7. Offenses looked anemic, especially given some of the early expectations. Pitching inconsistent. Defense has been sloppy. That said, are the Brewers as good as they've looked? Are the Red Sox as bad as they've looked? I don't know. Milwaukee sitting a -120 favorite with Brandon Woodruff going. Brian Bayo going for Boston here, an even money dog.
I think the real question is Bayo as bad as he looked at his first start? And I think you can maybe make the argument, yes. Last year, he was one of those guys you can make that you were probably, and I did at times, at least personally, you're trying to take your shots against, and it didn't really work out. 3.35 ERA, but a 4.48 expected ERA. You look at the balance of what Bayo did over the course of 28 starts last year. Really low strikeout rate combined with a below average walk rate. And you're thinking, all right, this dude's got to get got at some point. Never really came to fruition. So you come into this year thinking, well, I'm not really going to buy into it. And sure enough, the command issues have been there. The swing and miss stuff really isn't there. He's walked it. And again, we're talking very minute sample size is only 4 2/3. But the command looked shaky in the first start. And that was something that was, I thought, out there last year. So I think this is maybe just about the downfall of Bayo potentially, as opposed to, the Red Sox, like you're talking about, freaking out about everything and what's transpired with this team. And on the other side, you get Woodruff. I think we know exactly what Woodruff is at this point of his career. He can be a pretty solid guy when he's out there. Over 64 2/3 and 12 starts last year, 3.20 ERA, 3.17 FIP. The strikeout stuff is there this year. Gave up some hard contact in his last start, but I do think that there's probably something to the Brewers being about a $1.20 favorite. I think it makes sense that the Brewers would be in this spot. And like you said, we saw some buy up on this, right? Yeah, we saw some spots go up to $1.20, and I think that's fair. We've
got some conflicting projections, which are always fun. We talk about the Opta AI projection tool that we have over at vsin.com. They have Bayo at 6.06 strikeouts with a 23.8% edge today. Ballpark Pal has him at 3.16. So it's a pretty significant difference.
Yeah. Some of those projections are pretty good,
I don't know if you wrote this
though.
or Justin did Battle of the Robots.
Yeah. I thought it was you. I thought you threw that in there. But yes, we have the conflicting projections at this point right now. I would throw one more game in there that's pretty interesting today, too. Weather looks fine. Weather looks fine really quickly, and we can talk more about this maybe near the tail end of the program, too. But Casey Mize versus Joe Ryan. Minnesota with Joe Ryan's been priced pretty highly. And again, here today, opened up $1.20, upwards of -125. 7 shaded to the over at -115. Just worth pointing out here, we talked about Ryan last week, I think it was, in his start. Time all melts together. But, it was a Kansas City start. Either way, market really high in Minnesota when Ryan's out there, and rightfully so. But he got knocked around by the Kansas City Royals, give up 5 earned runs over the course of 4 innings. He's better than what he has shown. FIP's under 2. So I'll be curious to see if this price is accurate. The Twins stink, but Ryan's great, and Casey Mize is off to a really good start.
This is a pretty fun time of year. We got the MLB season getting underway, national championship tonight. It's also Masters Week coming up. And by the way, I did want to make sure I let you guys know about this VSiN High Stakes Masters Challenge we have on Splash Sports. It's a $500 entry with $100,000 guaranteed. Fantasy tiers contest built specifically for golf bettors. Here's how it works. Pick 6 golfers, 1 from each tier of the field. Your top 5 scores count. Lowest combined score across all 4 rounds wins. It's really fun. Entries close April 9th at 8 a.m. So don't wait. Splashsports.com/VSiN. Code VSIN is how you get in there.
Cold takes? Not here. It's time to puck around and find out.
All right, 10 days left in the NHL regular season, 9 playoff spots still to be determined, and 2 new head coaches over the course of the last week. I guess what's old is new again, because both Pete DeBoer and John Tortorella, obviously long-established head coaches in the National Hockey League, just new landing spots now.
That's weird that hockey does this.
I find it very peculiar.
Like, just that quickly, have the replacement ready. You know, firing a guy like Cassidy, who was not given a real goaltender at the trade deadline, which is odd. I don't really think there's a lot that was on his shoulders. Again, don't take my word for it. There's a lot of smarter hockey people than I that were saying the same thing. So, hey, man, look, I guess this is what happens. I don't know how much impact a new head coach has, though, when there's 5-ish games left and you're within a point of a playoff spot, but we'll see what happens.
So for anyone who missed it, the latest news, at least, of all of this is Patrick Waugh out with the New York Islanders, Pete DeBoer in. And this is a different situation than what we saw in Vegas, as you mentioned, with Bruce Cassidy and John Tortorella, right, where that is a short term, we'll see what it looks like in the future moving forward with Torts here, where he doesn't have an extended contract beyond this season. It's just, let's see what you can do with these final games remaining in the postseason beyond. They are 3-0 in the time that John Tortorella has taken off. Then again, I don't know what you fully make from wins over Vancouver and Calgary, who are 2 of the worst.
They're in your $4 favorite.
Who are 2 of the worst teams in the NHL.
Did beat Edmonton.
That's what I was going to say. The win against Edmonton and looking as good as they did, and Carter Hart, quite frankly, looking as good as he did, and he obviously has a past with Torts as well. So maybe that ends up being different. We've heard a lot of the players talk about the difference in the swag and the playing a more direct, more aggressive game that's kind of come back into their game. Maybe it did just take a kick in the rear end or whatever to realize that you need to change things. I don't know how much realness there is to that. That said, on the Pete DeBoer side of this thing, this is a long-term deal that they will have a contract in place that is for outside of this year, an additional 4 years set up. He was going to be one of the more highly touted coaching options this coming offseason. Pete DeBoer is a great coach. He's taken teams to the Western Conference Final 6 of the last 8 years, and he was going to have his pick of the litter. So you look at Matthew Darche, who's the general manager out there in New York, saying, I want to, if I'm going to make a change this offseason anyways, might as well get ahead of it, get the guy that I want so that he's not being lured in by any of these other potential teams, and kind of set the table for what will be this young, exciting Matthew Schaefer era to come. That said, you mentioned it, they are a point out of a playoff spot right now. And so can there be enough of a change coming off of what was a 4-game losing streak, dropping 7 of their last 10 to get in a position to now cement one of those final playoff spot opportunities in the Eastern Conference, and see maybe what they can do with it. They are plus 240 to make the playoffs, minus 295 to miss. The Flyers beat Boston 2-1 yesterday, gave them a 1-point edge now for third in the Metropolitan, first time that they've been in that spot in nearly 3 months. Ottawa currently holds the second wildcard spot in the East, following what was a 6-3 win over the Canes. That was a tough schedule spot, though, for Carolina. Ottawa handled business there, but Ottawa, the Islanders, Detroit, Columbus, and Washington, all within 3 spots of each other for a wild card.
I'm still alive. That's all I really care about here when it comes to the Oilers.
Yes. And so, I mean, do you want to get into the pillow fight that is the Pacific Division standings right now?
How is it a pillow
kind of
fight?
ridiculous.
Come on, these are all legitimately good teams.
There's something. But potential, right? They have all the talent, at least at the top, right? You know that Vegas and Edmonton have as much talent as you could ask for. Anaheim is kind of a young up-and-coming team. What are they really? I don't know. They're in a little bit of a skid right now. They were holding on to that top spot in the division, but now it's all Oilers and Ducks both tied at 87, but the Oilers have the advantage. Yep. Points, that is. Golden Knights with 86. Edmonton's a plus 125 favorite in the division.
I mean, I don't think there's much separating these teams, obviously from a standing standpoint, but also I would assume from a power rating standpoint, these are all like the exact same team.
Yes.
So it just really just depends on.
And their remaining schedules are all eerily similar as well, where they each have like one gimme cupcake game, one pretty tough opponent, and then other teams that are competing for a playoff spot. But what are they really? Who knows?
Correct. So I would acquiesce to you to how this is going to look for these teams as this ends. Vegas gets Vancouver coming up tomorrow, and they're part of a 4-game. This is the end of a 4-game trip that they're going to be on. The first one was at Edmonton. They're at Vancouver, at Seattle, and at Colorado. And then closing out against Winnipeg and Seattle. It seems like a relatively difficult schedule considering what's at stake for this team. But I would lean toward your approval on an assessment like that.
Of the group, they probably have the more challenging, but still, it's not a gauntlet by any means. And if what we saw this past Saturday against Edmonton is any indication of them actually turning up the gas and changing the way they play to an extent and getting the most out of their talent, then I could be intrigued by that plus 265 to win the division. But it's truly a toss-up in my mind right now. What happens in the Pacific and how those playoff spots ultimately play out.
Yeah. So how do you handle these every day as you move forward with some of these games? Like we talked a little bit about the seeding situation in the NBA and what it means for some of these teams and the way that they're getting priced or what the motivation is. We have 4 games today. How do you handle this? Motivation, seeding, anything like that?
Big implications for a number of games tonight as well. I know we talk about this a lot. Just because you need to do something doesn't mean it will happen. So there's something to take into account there. I do think current play is an important thing. We know this is a streaky sport and it can come in waves. And so that's something that I try to think about as I'm handicapping a handful of these games. The really interesting one tonight for me is this Preds-Kings game. Massive in terms of the Western Conference wildcard. Both teams tied at 81 points in the wildcard standings with 6 games left apiece. Head to head, by the way, for the second time in the last 5 days, they played just last Thursday in a 5-4 Predators shootout win. Same result, by the way, when they played at the beginning of the season, too. 5-4 shootout win for Nashville. I am very curious to see how this plays out. I lean Kings at home, but I don't really want to lay a price with this team right now. What I am interested in, if you just want to have a little fun, is for this game to be a regulation draw. It's plus 300. The Kings, we talk so much about the Golden Knights and all the overtime games that they have played and how the OT losses have pumped up their points for the season. Nobody has had more overtime losses or more overtime games than the Kings, setting NHL records for both this season. They had their 31st overtime game the other day. I just mentioned that both of the meetings with Nashville this season have needed extra hockey. 3 straight overtime games and 6 of the last 9 for Los Angeles have gone to OT. That's just something that happens to this team. So I wouldn't hate having a little pizza money fun on a 3-1 shot for this to be a regulation draw.
My question was going to be, do we know who's starting it in goal for Nashville? And because part of this is Saros has been getting actually wrecked these last few games. It's just that, this offense has been great for him. But down the stretch, you talk about he's given up 7 goals in his last 2 starts. And if you go back even further, we're talking about giving up at least 3 goals in each of his last 4. But the offense has helped him out, and they have won 3 of those 4 games, despite the fact that he has not played well.
He hasn't been confirmed, but is likely.
Okay, so that's my question is, do we look at this game potentially over the total? And the other part of my question was, you look at the stretch that Nashville's on in the games that they have played, is there maybe a letdown, a wear down, if you will? Look at the games. This is near the tail end of a road trip, but it's a long one for them. But on Thursday, they have a big one against Los Angeles that they went in the shootout. I mentioned Saturday night. That was a game it's 6-3, but that was a tight game in the third quarter before all hell broke loose.
Third quarter, eh?
Third quarter, did I say quarter? Sorry, I was looking at the third period. And that's a 6-3 win.
Yep.
But they're playing these high-leverage road games, shootouts, and you're still on the road here against the Los Angeles Kings, who are going to be looking for revenge at home once again. So I'm curious if this little California back and forth in some high-leverage contests with a goalie in net who has not been very good is worth looking at.
I don't hate it. The goalie angle especially. But what I would say is kind of tough about this, although you just gave evidence to the fact that maybe this isn't that true right now for this team specifically, is that when you get to this point in the importance of these games, it is more like playoff hockey. Playoff hockey has a different vibe and feel to it than regular season hockey, where you do play the tighter checking, harder, more defensive games. I just don't know necessarily if that's an option for either of these teams.
These last 2 games have not been the case for
and
Nashville, for sure.
The Kings we know too are very capable of letting in a lot and scoring goals.
You talk about schedule too.
Scoring goals now, that is. They not all see them.
This stretch, it's an opportunistic one for Nashville to take advantage of it. But the 2 games you mentioned, you're here against LA again. You're at Anaheim on Tuesday. You close out your road trip against Utah. You still have 2 more against San Jose and Anaheim, and then Minnesota. So you have some opportunity, but specifically San Jose as well, to kind of carve into this this spot, or carve your spot in, if you will, especially against some teams below you.
Speaking of goals getting racked up, I'm very curious to see what type of game we have with Lightning Sabres tonight. The last time these two played, it was one of the best, if not the best, most memorable games of the entire hockey season for anybody who remembers it. It was a back-and-forth thriller, 8-7 final. The Lightning trailed 4-1 in the second period. They rallied to take a 6-4 and 7-5 lead, end up losing in regulation. It was chaos with goals coming from everywhere. Do we get that again today? That is why you see the goal total here sitting at 6.5 in this one. I haven't placed a bet on this game, but I do lean Tampa Bay, minus 122 on the money line. Nothing official here, though. Sabres just struggling as of late. They dropped, 5 of their last 7 now. A couple of those teams out of the playoff picture as well. So taking a little bit of their foot off the gas after what's been such a remarkable season for them in general. Plus 102 at home, that price. By the way, we talked about Call Me Crazy earlier. We love the hot takes. If you've got a group chat, you've got opinions. Right now, you can put your money where your mouth is with Cut, the social betting platform that lets you bet directly against your friends and other users. Sports, politics, pop culture, whatever you want. Personal bets. Every bet fully customizable and pre-funded as well, so nobody flakes out on you when they lose. Plus, you get cash back on every single bet you made. Use the promo code VSIN. That'll get you a 15% deposit bonus on your first deposit. Download Cut today at KUTT.com or in the App Store and use that promo code VSIN. I do have a best bet in the NHL, which we will get to next, among some other things. So stick around. We're wrapping up Money Moves next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Up this Monday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, Channel 158. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And so just now on the commercial break, JVT was doing this chest hit thing with his fist. Did you have a burp or something? I don't know. It reminded me of the Wolf of Wall Street.
No. You do it all the time.
What?
Stormy's constantly belching off the air.
Whoa. Relax. That's not true at all.
You do that all the time.
So I do. No, but it's to eliminate a burp. It's not to, I don't actually burp. It's to get it out of my system. I don't know if I have heartburn or what's happening, but it often happens before I take a breath to do one of our ad reads or something like that, where I get ready to go and then I'm like, oh no, because I'm afraid I'm going to burp on the air and we can't have that happen. So I'm trying to get the bubbles out.
It happens every once in a while. It happens to the best of us.
I told you this in the commercial break earlier. I haven't talked this much in a while. My throat's kind of hurting.
So is that a reflection on you and your husband's relationship that you spent 2 weeks together and you just weren't talking the whole time? Is that? It's
just talking this much in a short period of time, okay? We had a great time. It was genuinely the coolest trip ever. It was so fun. If you have not been to Japan and you are able to make time to go, I highly recommend it.
Just fire it up, folks. Just get on out there whenever you'd like.
It was so cool. No, if you
especially during one of your company's busiest times, you should try that too.
Well, please. You're acting like people don't all want to work during March Madness. I feel like I'm more valuable for the NHL postseason than I am for March Madness. I was doing terrible betting college basketball. Nobody wanted my college hoops picks.
We're about to win our contest here in the show. We're about to be the best show.
I helped for the first round, and today we agreed. That's all we got. Speaking of which, Michigan.
It's not a high bar to clear, by the way, of the VC shows.
Is it bad?
We're what are we, a point out,
We're in
Justin?
second, right?
We're a second place at 500, so.
I made contributions for the rounds that had the most games, so I think that's something. That's something.
I kept us afloat the entire time.
Come on, man. Tonight, Michigan, a 6.5-point favorite against UConn. We've seen the money has been fluctuating a good bit here on the total, but seemingly all in the direction of the over, which I think makes sense as you get closer to tip-off, right? And if people like Michigan, where we've seen the bulk of the money ultimately invested, despite that spread moving from 7.5 to 6.5, we talked about it, the correlated play, right? Michigan in the over makes more sense. If you like UConn, you like taking the points, you think that UConn could maybe create a little bit more of a grinded out slugfest, then you probably like the under.
I would tend to agree. Although it feels like that's too easy. So maybe we should go the opposite direction. And if you like UConn, go over the total. And if you like Michigan, go under the total.
You're just saying something to say something now.
I do.
Where was that and call me crazy?
I think that's the way this probably goes. Again, the way these two teams want to play, the amount of possessions that they're comfortable with, everything they're looking for. We saw it against Arizona. That was absolutely insane. Coming up the floor, hitting pull-up threes. The offense was incredible. And if that's what's going to happen, Michigan's going to do it. And if UConn's going to win, they're going to stay inside of this number. They're going to grind it out. Terrace Reed Jr. is going to have another good day. That means working in the low post and elongating possessions.
No official plays for either one of us in this game. That said, for the contest, we did roll with Michigan -6.5 and the over. We do have a few, though, bets that are in pocket for the day. You want to get us started here with what you put in the account?
Sure. First off, the recap from over the weekend. Illinois, money line, did not get there against UConn. So that's a loss over on Saturday at -125. We persevere. We move on to bigger and hopefully better things. 2 plays today on the card. We will start in the baseball league, Major League Baseball. We'll go with the Marlins. We talked about this game and Junk getting the start, kind of tying in the fantasy aspect of what I've been doing. But some of these stream starts and banking on some of these dudes to have some pretty strong outings. I think Junk at -127 is a fair price to ask against the Marlins. You can find a smattering of different prices out there on Miami. So laid it with Jansen Junk and the Miami Marlins to get this done against the Cincinnati Reds today at home. And we talked a little bit about the total and the Kings and the way that Saros has been playing and the Predators. Let's have my own organic NHL play tonight, which I'm sure you would totally stay up for. 7:30 puck drop. Kings and Preds, we'll go Kings money line at home, -130 tonight against Nashville. What do you think?
I like it. I told you, I lean Los Angeles at home in that spot. Just wasn't a number I really wanted to lay. Today, I do have one bet in the National Hockey League, but wasn't one of the games that we talked about yet. So Sharks, Blackhawks, I'm going with San Jose on the puck line, laying a 1.5 goals at +150. Chicago did beat Seattle on Saturday, but that ended what was a 5-game skid for them. They dropped 7 of their last 9. 6 of those losses have come on the puck line as well. They're down a couple of defensemen, second worst team in the league, in the midst of a lot of travel as well, like we were talking about with another team. 7th game on the road in their last 8. Facing a team in San Jose where every point really matters for them in the wild card battle. They're at home. They tend to take care of business against lesser than teams. Not an official play, but I also think some Macklin Celebrini props could potentially be in play today. He's got a goal and an assist against Chicago already this season. He's 4th in the NHL in points. Anytime goal or maybe over 1.5 points. He's gone over the points prop in 3 of his last 5. Chicago 25th in the league in goals against, 31st in the league in shots on goals against. So there should be plenty of opportunities, I think, for Celebrini and others to get the Sharks on the board here. Total for the game, 6.5. No firm opinion on the full total, but maybe if you want to look at a San Jose team total, that could be an angle as well. I'm just banking on us getting an empty netter or potentially more for San Jose later in this one to cover the 1.5 on the puck line.
Like it. Love it.
We do have a baseball game that's coming up here in short order. If you have any opinion on it,
of course.
Cubs and Rays getting underway in the next 20 minutes or so. Jameson Taillon versus Shane McClanahan.
Yes, indeed. Let's see here. So Taillon opened up actually overnight was like Cubs -112 or so. Current price has that flipped at -126 in favor of McClanahan. I think it makes a little bit of sense so far on the season. In the lone start, you can look at it in 4 2/3 and say, hey, Taillon was great. Having said that, it was a blustery day at home against the Angels. If you look at maybe some of the hard contact numbers and whatnot, that there is a case to be made that in better conditions, Taillon probably would have paid for some of his transgressions. So we'll see in that start, 4 balls, hard hit, 2 barrels. So if that picks up, then maybe that's going to be something that a better team, or at least a team in better situation, can go and take advantage of. For McClanahan, this is the second start that we have seen from him since 2023. Remember, he had the elbow injury and whatnot. But the 4 2/3 that we saw from him, relatively solid. I would expect that this is at least fairly priced. The Cubs are off to a rocky start for their expectations. I think the offense is solid. I don't know how much the weather in that weird series at home against the Angels has to do with the struggles we have seen to an extent. We've seen the upside of the offense, though. But lean a little bit toward the Rays, but the market flipped this in the other direction. So you're probably priced out at this point if you're not in already, if you like Tampa Bay.
Again, those current prices, Tampa Bay -126, home favorites. Chicago +104, run total in this one, sitting 8. Last couple minutes before we get out of here, we talked earlier about the college basketball NBA news item we got at the very top of the show, where it apparently, according to reports, North Carolina intends to hire Michael Malone as their next head coach. Then a little bit later on in the program, we got some news around the Chicago Bulls as well, that following what has been another lackluster season, to say the least, the Bulls have fired their general manager, Mark Eversley, and their executive vice president of basketball ops, Arturas Karnisovas.
Yeah, hell is frozen over. He's been in power. Carson Novus has since 2020. Went 224, 254 in his time at the helm. They've made it to the playoffs one time. It's 4th straight year in which they missed out of the postseason. The Reinsdorfs are, notoriously happy with just getting into the playoffs and just filling in the seats and getting the gate and whatnot. But this has been too much to ignore. And the trade deadline was an absolute debacle. And then you can throw in what's going on with, everything else around the team. I would think that at this point, that there needed to be some sort of change, and that's exactly what it is. So, by the way, one of those things that I was mentioning, too, is the acquisition of Jaden Ivey and subsequent release of what's going on with him. So this has just been a nightmare for this team. They're very poorly built right now, and it's time to move on. And finally, maybe you're going to do something about it. Yep. I would also expect, because there's probably the natural question of, well, if the whole front office is out, what does that mean for Billy Donovan? Billy Donovan has had an albatross on his neck with this front office. He's a very good head coach. Yeah. We have seen good coaching jobs from this group, and I would expect that he stays and maybe has a hand in helping establish what this front office is going to look like going forward. We will see. Yeah,
to tie this all back together to what we said about Michael Malone, Billy Donovan was the name that was constantly brought up in that conversation. No?
I mean, I just don't buy that he was actually up for it. Like, that he wanted to, I should say. I think a lot of people were probably just naturally saying, of course, Billy Donovan, why not? Remember that time he was good? and then, and that's not to say he wasn't. He was a very good college basketball coach, as we know. But it's just, I think that people underrate how good a job being an NBA coach is, especially when you're a good coach, and that's what Billy Donovan is.
Bulls already eliminated from postseason contention here for the 4th consecutive year, 29-49 regular season record. It has not been good. Looking forward to tomorrow's show as well. We're going to have our good buddy Adam Burke on the program to recap the national championship coming up tonight, see how it all played out, talk plenty of Major League Baseball. I know you have a question about his beloved Guardians that we can get into. Also,
back in the bullpen, shaky.
Plenty of Masters talk as well. We're going to have Christopher Powers of Golf Digest give us some of his angles for what is going to be a beautiful weekend out there at Augusta. I'm excited.
Yes, indeed. Hardcore baseball talk, I think, for 2 segments here from Adam Burke. I'm looking forward to it.
I'll bring out the notepad.
You should. I mean, there's a lot, not just his Guardians, but there's a lot of different angles we can hit here as we move forward. Baseball season, look, you could sit there and say there's 162 games. It doesn't matter. Well, guess what? You don't get the ones you already played back.
That's true.
Games do matter.
That's true. That's fair. Back in the saddle. Felt good today. Got a little bit of the rust off. We'll see if we can improve tomorrow. My throat will hopefully feel better.
Nowhere to go up.
I've already been offered a cough drop. Come on.
Nowhere to go but up.
Come on. And I heard you and Mike Pump talking about me. Not cool. I thought we were friends.
What did we say?
I don't know, but something bad.
Okay, so you don't know. You weren't watching.
I can't say verbatim right now. However, that's a wrap for us today. We'll get into that with Mike on Friday, I'm sure. That said, stick around, follow the money with Mitch and Paul coming up after this.